Hold up. Yeah, I talk about it, but I'm real about it. I speak on it, but don't catch films about it. We can chop it up like it's nothing, baby.
What's going on, everybody? We back here live here on the OT Radio Show. Hey, we got a good show for y'all today. Today, we're going to be talking to my man, Imani, going to be joining us here on the show, where we're going to be talking about domestic and street violence. As everything continues here on the OT Radio Show, you know, domestic violence is always a strong topic, especially when it comes down to, you know, we always associate domestic violence with, you know, females being victims, such as tragedy as homicides. But, however, every year there is more than 10 million men and women in the U.S. adjusted to domestic violence. More than one in three women, that's 35.6%, and more than one in four men, that's 28.5% in the U.S. will experience rape, physical violence, and or stalking or intimidating partners in their lifetime. So today, I am bringing on author. There was violence here on the show. Mr. Ahmad will be joining me here on the show in about 2 minutes. Hey, we have got through the weekend. We are here now. How everybody feeling out there? How are you doing out there? How is life out there? Right now, it is actually snowing where I am at. Whew, little chilly, little chilly, little chilly. But hey, we here. We love y'all. We're here to talk to y'all. And today we're going to talk about domestic violence and street violence. So I'm going to have author, you know, there was violence on here on the show. Mr. Iman is going to be joining your boy here on the show in a couple of minutes. But man, when I tell you I had a very good day today, you know what I mean? My Sixers won. Yes, we beat the LA Lakers. You know, I'm actually very happy about that one. We had a very productive morning today. I talked to my cuz today, and we had conversation about the Lakers. So you know, I was very happy about that because you know he gave me some inside information earlier, what I should have took heed to, but I didn't. But LeBron, you gave me zero fantasy points. I'm just going to just go ahead and put that out there right now. He gave me zero fantasy points. So, but however, we here. We love y'all. We are ready to rumble here on the show. We are ready to get into detail, especially about domestic violence, especially about violence. Period. So, when Ahmad joins us here on the show, we're gonna get into it. Into it. But first, I got a couple of issues that I want to address here. Um, you know, there is a lot of things going on here, especially in America. And one of the things is that is going on. People are getting offended with people who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. And I'm going to say this: it is your choice. Whatever you choose to do is what you choose to do. I don't get into all that rumbling. Oh, you know what I mean? That person ain't vaccinated. Listen, everybody gotta live their life the way they want to live their lives, right? Everybody got to do what they want to do in their lives. So when it comes down to that, I'm going to tell you, OT, don't get into that. Whatever you choose to do with your life, that's what you choose to do with your life. If you vaccinated or you unvaccinated, we shouldn't be arguing over something like that. That's whatever your choice. That's your choice. Period. Point blank. While our producer said, my man, you know, Iman is here on the show. So we're gonna go ahead and bring him in on this beautiful, beautiful Friday. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Are we bringing him in right now? Producer said yes. He should be in right here. What's going on, man? How are you feeling?
Hey, what's up, OT? I'm good, man. How you doing?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. Well, first, you know, thank you for joining me here on the show. I appreciate you so much for joining.
My
Ah, man,
my
on a
pleasure. My
beautiful
pleasure.
Friday. Yes, yes. So let's dive right into it, man. Um, can you tell our listeners, right? Tell us about the story of you. Who are you, and how did you get started?
So the short story on me. I'm an LA native. Born and raised South Central LA. I still live in the LA area now. So, former athlete, college guy. Career wise, for the most part, I've been in the corporate side of entertainment. So, I've been in what's called like the digital supply chain. So when you think of, all of your favorite movies and TV shows getting on platforms like in iTunes and Google, that's what I've done for a majority of my career. Leading on up to, some transitions into the world as an author and as a entrepreneur in the nonprofit space.
Okay. So let's dive right into, the book, right?
Okay.
So, right now you have the book right now. There Was Violence. I
Yes,
love the
sir.
title.
Thank you.
I definitely love the title. So tell us about the story. There Was Violence.
So the story is based on my life for the most part, but it also captures what's happening, what's happened with my family. And actually, another story is, and I would consider my old neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles a character also. So the background of it is, I used to live in a beach city here in the LA area, and the long and short of it, man, is I thought I was about to have a street altercation. So
Wow.
essentially, yeah. So I just had a nice breakfast at one of my favorite restaurants, and I see a guy approaching me, and his body language and his energy signaled to me that this guy looks like he wants to hurt me.
Mm.
And the reason why I made that interpretation is because I've been there before, and you don't necessarily, anybody's from the inner city or anybody from a rough part of the world, that aggression may find you and you may not know the reason why, but you can't really focus on, well, what's going on or why is this happening. You have to address a potential threat. So I'm looking at this guy, and as he's closing in about 75 feet away, man, I'm getting ready for like game time, to put it
Mm.
simply.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about all my basics of keeping my chin tucked, getting in a good fighting stance, getting my
Mhm.
feet ready to move. But what it turns out is this guy who was a little bit younger than me and bigger than me. I go about 6'4", 220. He's bigger and younger.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was like, I don't care what the reason is, this dude's going down.
Hmm.
But as he got closer, about 10, 15 feet, he passes me. What it was that, and as I look back, he was looking for his lady friend. So his intense look was all aligned to him looking for his lady friend, who he's behind me, hugging her, kissing her, embracing her. He was just looking for his lady friend. So that situation left me feeling silly, man, for a few reasons. Like, number one, that could have been a close call. And, a lot of
Hmm.
us are one bad moment or a bankruptcy away from just ruining our lives. But it
Hmm.
was a tipping point in the sense of, like I knew I come from a rough area. I knew that I come from a world of domestic violence. It was a moment where I knew I had to really explore deeper, like, dude, like, what's going on with you? So what I did after that, I got home and I started journaling and journaling and journaling. Then 3 months later, I had a 90,000 word document, man, of just dumping out every moment. And the punchline of what happened to me and
Hmm.
my family and people in my neighborhood or my hood is that there was violence. Like, there was a reason why in my family you have people who turn to drug addiction and who develop like street anxiety, and people who develop like disassociating from their blackness or their Afrocentricity, and people who left prematurely and got into more abusive relationships. So like, that's the whole story. And the story also captures how my neighborhood transformed. And just one last little point, man, is like, I came up through the 70s and the 80s, and it's an interesting period because it comes out of like the civil rights era, Vietnam War, and then now you got street gangs like Bloods and Crips and Latino gangs developing. We're going on through crack cocaine being introduced into our neighborhood. So it captures a lot of transformative moments, but it really drills down to what my observation was of what happened to my family, what happened to myself, and even my parents.
Wow, man, I'm just see when we talk about violence, street violence. It's very dear to my heart because it's still going on till today. Everything is still going on today, even though the '70s and the '80s, you know, it's still going on. So, what can we do to help out or to prevent certain street violence that is happening today?
I have a
Let's be
simple
honest.
answer. you know, it. I have a simple answer, but the execution of it is complicated.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it's funny you were talking about vaccinations and stuff
Right.
before we got on, and I agree with a lot of what you say. Like my approach is being mindful of it,
Hmm.
and my approach is also having empathy for people in your circle, for yourself, and other people. And what I mean by all that, man, just kind of piggybacking on what you were talking about with vaccinations, like I can relate to Dr. Fauci in the sense
Hmm.
that, here's a guy who's been studying virus and epidemiology since like AIDS back in the 80s. Like I remember all that.
Hmm.
And you got other people trying to tell him what's what with COVID. It's like, you don't have that frame of reference, man. You didn't study this for like literally 30 and 40 years. How you going to tell dude about COVID?
Right.
So the reason I relate is that like I've lived with violence and like I know from early as the age of 7, a bullet's whizzing by my head, or running from my life, or just watching
Mm.
violence in the home. So the thing to do is to understand the ripples it sends in people's lives. Like it's not
Hmm.
necessarily just single moments, like you get into a fight with another man or a woman. It may not stop there. Like that can leave an impression on somebody for the rest of their lives, depending on how things go down. So it's like you got to be mindful that number one, you may not have to get into a violent situation. Number two, you may potentially change somebody's life for the rest of their life. Number
Hmm.
three, you have to understand, or we all have to understand that some people don't have the tools to resolve conflict. So I think it's really about education of how it can change lives, how it can linger with people for like decades. Man, look,
Yeah.
I thought I was shy for most of my life. It's like
Mhm.
no,
Right.
it was like for me, it's like the violent impact has spilled over into romantic lives in terms of shaping my behavior. It spilled over into my professional career. It spilled over into
Mhm.
friendships. So it's about awareness and understanding that the subject is broader and deeper than people might think. But people look at it through a very narrow lens. So it's really about, man, not to be too circular, it's like education and developing tools to understand what's going on socially and developing tools to resolve conflict without it.
I understand that. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. So let's go ahead and get back to the book because I know we got like a little bit off track a little bit.
Okay.
So what was the moment you realized you was affected by the violence trauma? Because a lot of people don't understand that. There is trauma when it comes down to violence. Regardless if are you doing the violence or you are in the violence. There's trauma. So when did you realize that you was getting affected by it?
I've always known on a minor level, but I have to say, man, like that moment in the parking lot and it was in Marina Del Rey, California. that was a watershed moment
Mm-hmm.
because I've hinted at it and have sort of dealt with it subconsciously, but that was a watershed moment because it let me know, like, number one, you got to explore this. And number two, you know, you haven't been using the language that you need to use to know how much you're impacted by it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole language of, and I'm a heterosexual dude, so like trauma, like you were traumatized, man. Watching your parents fist fight traumatized you.
Mm-hmm.
Dudes threatening to shoot you over bumping into them traumatize you. So, you know, and then looking at more current relationships and how, you know, like somebody in the corporate environment is like talking tough. And it's like, okay, in my world, the words you use, it means you want to fight, like you want to get them up.
Mm-hmm.
But to them, they didn't know that I was in that mindset because they come from a totally different environment. But back to your question, like that watershed moment was that moment in the parking lot where I went from, it was like Wizard of Oz. I was seeing in black and white, but now
Uh-huh.
I'm seeing the world in color.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Wow. I mean, right now you giving our listeners and our people who follow us and people who gonna be watching the replay some good some good language right now, man. You're giving them some good knowledge because a lot of times we don't look at like I tell people when we are in a situation, regardless of we the one doing it or we the one being affected by it, there's trauma, right? And during this trauma, there's people from the outside and the inside is getting affected by it. And that's why I said sometimes we have to stop just throwing our kids in jail and find out what was the trauma, what happened. Let's go back there. Because a lot of these kids, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of these kids have the trauma. They going through it. That's why they're doing the things that they are doing. Not just because they want to do it, it's something that provoked them to do it. And it might not be that person. It might be something that happened 5 years ago that automatically replayed in their head. 2 years ago that replayed in their head. And all of a sudden it's like, you know what, I gotta go ahead and go get him. You know what I mean? Because I seen someone that I love go through that and I'm not gonna go through that. So, for me, I mean, whew, yeah, yeah. You talking about it. You are talking about it here on the show. I'm telling you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, man. So man, so what was your observation about your family and neighborhood at the writing, of the book?
You know, man, I went from there's a lot of positives of dealing with your own stuff, like your own trauma, especially I'm going to say for men, like black men. Um, it's healing, number one. And I would also say I went from a space of being sort of confused and angry at people and less sympathetic to a space of understanding. And starting with my family, it's like, like I used to kind of emotionally, and some of us do, we're critical of our parents. Like, why you didn't do more of this for me? Or why you didn't live
Mm-hmm.
here? Why didn't you do that? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, a lot of our parents are doing the best they can do with the tools they got.
Yes.
A lot of people in the hood or in your neighborhood are doing the best they can do with the tools that they have. So my general observation was, here's a bunch of people who, and being African American, lack economic opportunity. They experience severe racism. They don't really have tools of emotionally of how to deal with one another. They don't really, they've never really had anybody to model, like, okay, here's a problem, here's a discussion of that problem, and here's how we resolve that problem without anybody throwing hands, without anybody whipping out their nine or their Glock or whatever. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
that's not really modeled for us. So I just say these were a bunch of people who they're like patients who were never diagnosed
Mm-hmm.
and who never got the medicine they needed. And, you know, like there was one cat, and it's in the book, who he told one of my classmates in the 9th grade, he wanted to shoot me because I bumped into him. He was a high school dude. And I had the nerve of
Mm-hmm.
standing up to him. Like, if you want to get him up, let's get him. Like, I wasn't that dude
Right.
to like start stuff, but I also wasn't the dude to back. Like, I'm just not going to catch a beat down, you know?
Right.
So it's like, all right, if you're going to go, let's go. But I used to, in a silly way, and some dudes can relate, I used, like, as an older man, like, I hope I run into that dude again. Like, it's a different story now. Like, what's up now?
Right.
Because we prideful. You know, and I was bigger, and I'm stronger. What's up now?
Uh-huh.
But I look at people like that, man. I look at that guy, and I used to kind of want people like him to get street justice handle him. I look at him and go, you know, that's a cat who probably wasn't coming from a home of love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a young man that was probably modeling a lot that was going on with him. And that's a cat that's probably, you know, who was probably to some degree miserable. And a lot of cats, man, it's like, I have an ex-teammate that was on FBI top 25 for bank robbery. I grew up with some killers, man. I grew up with some hard gangsters. And it's like, I feel sorry for them because looking back, I see the trauma. Like when the lights, when it's nighttime and somebody's car is driving they cut the lights off, I saw the fear in their face. But I just didn't have the life experience to say that's trauma. Or when somebody's acting out in a certain way because somebody said a little something that they didn't like, you know, that could be coming from their family or parenthood or sexual abuse, whatever. You just never know. So it's just a lot of hurt people, man, that don't know they're hurt. It's a lot of hurt people that unfortunately, again, just didn't have the skills to cope with life.
Right. Man, so that actually about to go into the question that I was going to ask you anyway. You know, what are some of the ways that the violent trauma affected you in your adulthood?
Man, just little artifacts that I wasn't aware of it. Like, for example, you know, my mother was a tough, sometime gun packing woman who wasn't afraid to whip out whip out her tray 8.
Wow.
So like,
okay, moms. Okay.
yeah, moms wasn't no joke, man. She's a toughest person I ever knew. But like just dating a woman and her raising her voice at me and her body language coming with a certain energy that I've seen from my own mother and seen from other women in my neighborhood. I'm like, and I would have a strong reaction. And my strong reaction was either to flex my masculinity through a nonviolent way to shut them down or to just shut down completely and I'm out. So that's romantically how it would affect me. Like I said, corporate wise, you know, a lot of people in corporate America who ain't never been in any kind of physical altercation will write a tough email. Well, you better do this and I better not.
What?
Like, it's like, dude, in my neighborhood, in my world, you get punched in the mouth for that or worse. So what would happen, OT, I would have luckily I have good discipline and restraint, but biologically and emotionally, I'm like ready to take off on somebody. Like what? Like, and so like my body is reacting to the same behavior where for years, that kind of behavior led to fist fight, or it led to somebody getting cracked in the head with a bottle, somebody getting, shanked with a comb. So I'm responding to that. So another way, like socially, like we're at a bar or something, dude, and some dude is just, in a real life story, I stepped on a dude's shoe and I apologized. This dude is across the bar staring at me for a good 35, 40 minutes and
Wow.
just like trying me. So it made me frequent spots like that less often. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't go to a spot like that. I'm not really a drinker and I'm afraid
Right.
that I'm going to hurt somebody. And God forbid if I catch a case just by some weird luck of the draw through the justice system. And you know how
Mm-hmm.
they do us in the criminal justice system. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
it made me more insular or more insulated, like a lone wolf sometimes. It's like, I'm only going to rock with people who I know are sensible. I'm only going to date
Mm-hmm.
women who are level-headed. Even
Mm-hmm.
though, like there could be a chance where a woman is just spirited, but she doesn't mean anything by it. But like I
Right.
was like a sniper. It's like if I saw any kind of behavior like that, like, yeah, like that reality show stuff, like you out.
Right.
I'm like a mob
Man,
boss,
because
like
you
you
know what?
gone.
Listen, man, you know what, man? You had said something, man, about the email thing, man, and I just went through that. Like I read an email, and I really had to like step back and walk away and go to the bathroom and like, okay, all right, you know what I mean? The person probably
Splash some water
didn't
in your
mean it.
face.
The person didn't mean it in that way. You know what I mean? Like, because then I would be like, sometimes the emotions lead to things that you should not say. So I had to go back. And then when I read the email again for the third time, I said, okay, I can see his. Because when you get it like, hey, you're not doing this and we got to get this done. Somebody like, hold up, wait a minute, who the think you talking to? Like, yo, I just seen you. Dot 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 dot. We could have had this conversation. Dot dot dot. But you want to shoot an email, right? So you know what I mean? It's like, hold up, wait a minute. Let me take a back seat to it. You know what I mean? Because boy, oh boy, I tell you, man, I was about to go off. I ain't even
Well,
want to sugarcoat it.
yeah, and but that's good that you bring that up because, like, especially for African American men, we sometimes have to live in two worlds. We have to live in the
Yes.
dominant world of the white people, and we have to live, in our world of African Americans. And
Mm-hmm.
a plus of that is like, especially if you're a bigger person, like when I talk to women at work, well, pre-pandemic, when I would talk to women at work, it's like, dude, you got to be
Mm-hmm.
mindful of your stature. You 6'4", she can interpret you as bullying you or bullying her, or it's like you got a
Yes.
kind of a deep
Yes.
voice, so you can interpret that. That can be interpreted as like, oh, he's intimidating me, and even dating, man, is like I'm like real measured with women because I know that for a lot of women, a lot of bad things has happened sexually and romantically. So like I take it real slow with a woman. I'm like, we'll talk for a few times. When we decide to meet up, I ask them, what are you comfortable with? Where do you want to
Mm-hmm.
meet?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like riff off of Patrice O'Neal, the late comedian, is like, I got receipts. Like I got proof of like good behavior through the text messages and geolocating and all of that. It's like, it's like I'm easing into it. And I've even had women, and another way it's impacted is women will like just step to me like, are you attracted to me? Or like, are you bisexual? I'm like, huh? She said, well, you haven't tried anything on me. I said, because I know y'all been through stuff and I want to make it clear that this is a step we both want to take versus me forcing you into something that you didn't want. Because when things are being read in court, and I've never been in
Yep.
court, I ain't never been locked up, they're going somebody can look at 6'4", 220-pound black man and this meek 5'3", 110-pound woman. And it's like any way you spin that, it doesn't paint a favorable picture on me. So like that's why like I'm it's like I'm myself, but I'm like careful with how I let people experience me.
Mm-hmm. So, do you ever imagine what life would have been like without, domestic abuse and inner city crimes? Have you ever
Yeah,
imagined
man.
that?
I do, and I got to be careful with that. And I think we all got to be careful with that because like on one hand, it's like you never know how life would have turned out if certain things wouldn't have happened, if you didn't have a certain family, if you weren't in a, learn if you weren't raised in a certain neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
My first moment of thinking along those terms was I was in high school in the summer, and I was on a traveling team. We went to Vancouver, Canada, and man, like I went, it's like going from a neighborhood where, you hear a gunshot, you're like, oh, somebody busting off a 45. You
Right.
don't think nothing of it, or somebody scrapping, somebody get get in the head with a 2x4, like damn. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say recreation, or it's kind of like watching TV. You kind of detach from it, but going to Vancouver, Canada, man, in this ultra clean, ultra manicured environment. And we, me and one of my teammates, we stayed with a local family there. We just started like imagining, like, damn, man, we can walk through the street and ain't nobody messing with us, nobody on the corner. The most contentious conversation we heard was the father talking to the daughter about getting a B in trigonometry or calculus. Like, that's it. Like, so it started me to thinking, like, man, if I was able to just focus on school and basketball and just growing up and developing as a young man, like, wow, like like what could that have, like, man, maybe I could have done so many more great things and not been handicapped with this undiagnosed anxiety. So, yeah, I mean, I thought about that a lot, but then I don't want to dishonor my parents, and I don't want to dishonor my heritage and saying, why didn't you do better? And a lot of it is we didn't have the choice. You're talking about my father, who had a high school degree, a high school diploma, my mother, who had like a 9th grade education. They love me. They care for us. I'm not going to play what ifs too much to where I take away from the sacrifice and all the trauma and trouble and challenges they went through at a time where this country was really not kind to Black people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right about that, man. Because during them times, whew, I honestly like that's the reason why I try to tell my kids more and more about the history, because certain things that they're doing now, we wasn't able to do that if you listen to the grandmoms and the fathers and the mothers. Like, they tell you, like, listen, we grew up where we had to go to a separate bathroom just black people, or we had to go to only a black person hotel. Like, y'all didn't have the privilege. Like, y'all got the privilege now. Y'all can all mingle all together with no questions asked. You know what I mean? Imagine had to ride down the road and you got to go to the bathroom, but however they say, oh yeah, the bathroom is all the way out there in the woods in the shed, right? But everybody else is going inside. The restaurant going to the bathroom. Like, sometimes these kids, I understand these kids, like, hey, this is what we do now, but remember, you weren't able to do these things if these things didn't happen. So take heed to what happened. And I'm going to say this, and a lot of people got on me about this. I say, one of the biggest mistakes that we have made right now, and I understand the reason for it, but taking down statues and eliminating a lot of things far as what was racist, right? And taking these things away. Um, I tell my kids, I said, listen, yeah, they took down the Chris's, the Chris Columbus statue, but I can't give you that story about it because you're not going to be able to see it.
That's a
Like,
good
I
point.
can't give you a story. I can't give you a story about this landmark because they took it down. You ain't going to be able to see it. So while y'all asking for these things, they taking away the history lessons for us, for we can go and tell people about certain things. How can we tell a story if you ain't got a picture or you ain't got proof that it happened? Got a little deep, didn't I? I got a little deep, right?
You know
So,
what?
so
let me be real with you. And if you got more to say, let me be real with you. Up until hearing you say that, I was probably more on the side of the whole taking the Confederate statues down. But now as they're trying to take certain history books out of school, it kind of
Yes.
feeds into your point of, okay, well, if you don't have a visual representation of some of the evil and they take away the books, then what are we relying on in terms of teaching our kids? So, I mean, that's a strong point, man.
Yeah, like you know what I mean, and I understand. I truly do understand, but there was there for a reason. But we can go ahead and tell the story about this person. We can go ahead and tell you the story of what happened in Virginia, where you can actually stand near a landmark of Virginia where they sold slaves at. We can show it to you. Now we
Mm-hmm.
can't even show it to you. So, what stories are we leaving our great grandkids or our grandkids? What stories are we leaving them? We are
Mm-hmm.
getting wiped out. I understand, like I tell people, I understand, and I don't like going back and forth with folks all the time. But I say I just want you to look at the bigger picture of the whole thing. Like you said, in Texas, they taking away them histories. Out there in Texas, history book, how to teach history, they taking it away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Folks better
Mm-hmm.
start realizing what's going on. That's all I gotta say. That is what I have to say, because then it'd be like, well, what did you experience? Can you show me what you experienced? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So that's just me.
Dude, I cover world, like I follow world news, and your argument or your position is one of the stronger ones I've heard, and I didn't even think about it. So I appreciate that. Like I'm not gonna say I'm totally against taking away all the statues and whatnot, but I think you have a strong point. It's like, well, okay, well, things are a little different now. They're taking books out of school, so like, what we do, like,
Oh,
I think that's a props to you for that, man. Strong point.
yeah, yeah, man. I mean, that's just me. And then people be like, oh, you crazy. Why would you even say something? But that tells our story of why certain things are happening to us that follow us through generations,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
right now, you know what I mean? We're talking about trauma
Mm-hmm,
that is happening with us as grown men,
mm-hmm,
that is affecting the kids today, that affected our father and our mother and our great grandmother and great. These are trauma
mm-hmm.
that we really don't even talk about. And
Yeah.
now here we are, and I thank you for coming on the show and we talking about it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about why our great grandfathers worked 4 or 5 jobs and say, hey, listen, you know what I mean? This is what we're going to do. We want you to go ahead and keep this job. And moms was, great grandmoms was, house mothers and taking care of other people. You know what I mean? So, but that's trauma. That's the
Mm-hmm.
things that we go through. And I ain't gonna lie to you. We're still going through stuff that we went through back in the, back when my mom and dad uh was going through. We still going through that today.
Mm-hmm.
It's following. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's following. It's things happening on a biological level, and even there's new traumas happening right now
Yes.
to Black people, to a lot of people, and like one of the
Yes.
things that frustrates me, dude, is like as men, like I know we're supposed to, we're the bigger, the fastest, and the strongest of the genders, but you addressing your trauma as a man don't take away from your manhood. It's like, think of
Talk
it like
about it.
this. Dude, you break your leg, you ain't gonna get it fixed. You crack a tooth, you ain't gonna get it, you ain't gonna go to a dentist. That don't take away from your
Yeah.
manhood. So why
Right.
would you look at yourself because of some silliness and say, oh, well, if I admit that when somebody whipped out that gun on me, I got scared, or if I'm acting in a way, if I'm punking people because my father punked us,
Mm-hmm.
that's putting you a step or two closer to becoming a better man. Because
I
ain't
like
nothing soft about healing yourself. Ain't nothing soft about becoming a better father, a better brother, a better whatever. And I want, man, for men, especially us black men, to know, like, that doesn't make you soft, man. That doesn't take anything away from you. If anything, taking a step towards something scary and conquering that makes you a better person. It makes you a stronger man. And once you start feeling the benefits of that, of conquering those little dragons or those little demons or whatever you want to call it, you'll start seeing, like I started feeling, like, man, my life is so much more peaceful. I'm not walking around with all this anger and resentment. And now I'm freeing my mind up to where I can do the stuff that I want to do. I can start interacting with people the way I want to, So I don't know how we got on that, but that's one of the things is the actual benefits of it, man, of dealing with that and using the right language.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Like now, and I can speak for myself now since I have healed a lot. I can tell you this. If someone is going through something, like you have a conversation with somebody and you can see what they're going through, because a lot of people can read body language. I can read body language. That person going through something. You know what I mean? You know what, bro? This is not even the time or even suggested for us to have this conversation. I'll come back to you later because you're probably going through something. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like that's healing. For me, that's healing for me. Recognize another person issue before we go there. Because a lot of times I'm like, dude, man, I don't care about how you feel right now. Yo, listen, I need you to go ahead and do this. Now the compassion part is starting to come. Like, hey, you know what? You look like you're going through something. You had a bad day, probably a bad drive, or something like that. I'll get to him later about the situation. It's easy. And that comes from healing.
That comes from wisdom too. And smarts, man, like to navigate around that. Like that reminds me of a quote, man. I read a book. It was a samurai book, but the quote was basically like, your objective should be using the metaphor as a samurai warrior, your objective is to win the sword fight without getting your blade bloody. And that's what you did.
Yeah. I appreciate that one. Wow. Yeah, I appreciate that one. So, man, listen, man. I gotta say this to you. You have to come back on because I want to get a group of men to talk about, violence and talk about trauma. And I think you are the perfect man who can actually sit back and have men talk about it. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Talk about it like they should. Men don't talk about the issues that they're going through that might happen, 5 years ago that they still going through. And I think that'd be something good as a platform for all us men to talk about things because a lot of men are dealing with, people that passed away. A lot of people are dealing with, kids, and a lot of people are dealing with, being husbands and working and fathers and stuff like that. And I think that's the trauma. That is the trauma that we're talking about today. And I think it'll be real good to have you come back on so I can have a group of men and we'll talk about these things and how we can heal. Because I honestly, when you have a group of men talk about it and people see that, I think people are going to start recognizing, like, you know what? I need to talk about it.
And the youngins need to see us had a conversation so they can have the conversation with their peer groups and see oh, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to say I'm scared. It's okay for me to take some time off or whatever. Like we got to continue modeling that. So hit me up whenever, man. I'm there.
All right, man. Yeah, man, because they got to see that, man. They got to, because that's what I think a lot of kids are going through today. There's no one. They think that everyone tends to, try to correct them. Like, yo, like, what you want to talk about that for? Like, hold up, bro. Chill out for a second. Let me talk to me. What's going on with you? Like, forget me. What's going on with you? And then you start to get in depth of what's going on. Like a lot of them, like, yo, I just feel like people don't understand me. And that always what the kids say, especially them young men and young ladies, be like, I just feel like people just don't understand me. Like, what? Talk to me about it. Let's talk about it.
because ain't nobody really dug and pulled that out of them. So they don't have the tools, they don't have the life experience, and they don't know until you take them there.
Yes. So, man, listen, man. I thank you so much. My Friday is about to be even more outstanding, and I appreciate you jumping on here, man. Not only talking about your book, but actually talking about trauma and talk about things that's going on, especially in the neighborhoods, especially around the world too. Like when you mentioned you went to Canada, it's like that's an eye opener for a lot of people. Like, wow, what are they really doing out there? Like, okay, they a little happy go lucky. And we had a guy come on from Canada, and he was talking about the racism in Canada, how he's dealing with the trauma out there. So, I mean, it's crazy that it all comes together, but it's just like, wow. So we do need to talk about this. So you know what? I'm going to be hitting you up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I'm going to be hitting you up right after the show, and for we can try to get us all together and bring some people along, where we can just, even if it's just a one show thing, just for people to see it. And let's talk about the trauma that's going on, especially the domestic violence and the street violence that's going on in the neighborhoods. Period.
Absolutely.
Point blank. So go ahead and tell everybody all your social media platforms and everything else, man.
Okay, so the first thing, thank you for that, and man, I'm honored. Like, I'm enjoying this conversation, and yeah, you're a real one. Thank you. So the book, There Was Violence, the official website, www.therewasviolence.com. If you ever get lost, go back to that website and you'll find all the social media. I don't remember my social media handles, but if you go on, if you go on Google, I'm going Twitter and go on Instagram, just search There Was Violence and you'll find the official social media. It'll have an icon with TWV, There Was Violence. What else can I give them? My podcast, if you want to hear some edgy social analysis, on all platforms, hit up Misconnected. Just search on Apple or Google or whatever, Misconnected with Imani, MISCONNECTED. I don't remember the social media handles for that either, so just go and search Misconnected. And
listen, man, we got you.
Yeah, and then the one last thing, man, like the book is, I'm modeling for people what I did to get to where I am today. So go to Amazon.com, you get the paperback ebook, you can get the audiobook, which I record, and people are finishing the book like 1.5 and 2 days, man. They're zipping, they're engaged, they're zipping through it. And I got a copy for you, OT, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, like that's everything from me. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, dude. I appreciate what you're doing.
Man, listen, man. I thank you. And by the way, if people don't his first name, let me go ahead and give people a little history lesson about your first name. All right. So your first name, if everybody know about Kwanzaa, his first name means faith. So right there we have a man that is faith. And his first name recognize who he is. So just want to go ahead and throw that out there, because a lot of people like, hey, listen, names mean things. There's a reason why. There's a reason why. So everybody know about Kwanzaa. That's faith right there. So, hey, man, I appreciate you so much, bro. And
yes, sir.
Listen, the next time you come on, because I'm getting my bookshelf and stuff together, so in the background, you want to see a whole bunch of bookshelf. We expanding a little bit more. Your book going to be right up there, because I want to show people all the authors that came on. Everything is so much knowledge. Because a lot of people say, OT, you be having a lot of authors on, but a lot of people don't understand the authors have the testimony. So for y'all to understand that, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of knowledge real fast. You know what I mean? That's the testimony. They're giving y'all game about what's going on. So, like you said, you had, matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to download the audio too, because I already got the ebook. Sorry to let you know I got the ebook already.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You still getting the paperback. The signed one.
Okay. Oh man, appreciate it. Went down audio too, because most likely, a lot of times driving in the car, go ahead and listen to the audio. So, yo, man, I appreciate you so much, man. Definitely appreciate you, bro.
Thank you,
we're going to connect. And gotta have you come back, man, because you just gave our listeners and people following the people who want to listen to the replay a knowledge. And when we talk about healing, this is what we're talking about. And letting people
Yes,
know,
sir.
like, we have trauma. There's trauma going on.
And y'all
I'm
could
trauma.
do it. Like I ain't that special where I just did it. I fumbled through it. And everybody
Mm-hmm.
listen to this. If this is you, if you went through this, the violent trauma, sexual abuse, or whatever, you can do it. There is a path for you. I don't know what that looks like, but there is a path where you can do it. I'm not gonna BS nobody about that. You can do it.
Facts. Facts. That's a fact. All right, bro. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for joining your boy OT here on the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you, man. And welcome to the family.
My pleasure,
You are
man.
now
Thank you.
part of the family. I appreciate you, bro. And we me and you gonna be talking. Me and you definitely gonna be talking, bro.
I
I
hear you.
got I
That's
got
real.
you. I got you, bro. Real talk, bro. I got you. All right, bro. Well,
Cool.
I appreciate you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be blessed out there. I know you out there in Cali, so you might not have no snow like I do. Have snow outside, which I don't feel like going out and shoveling. I'm just going to just let you know.
Well, I ain't gonna talk about the 70-degree weather we got right now. I mean, that would.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, so now I gotta go outside and shovel snow and stuff like that. But because I don't want my foot to slip. You know, God forbid they slip and fall and slide down the hill. So
Yeah, yeah. You don't want that.
but no, no. Then they be looking at me like, you didn't shovel? You didn't shovel? So, but yo, man, yeah, man, I definitely appreciate you, man. And I'm definitely gonna be hitting you up right after the show. So we can go ahead and, try to get some stuff together so we can bring this healing process together with grown men where we can talk about it.
Cool, cool.
All right.
Thanks, OT, man. You
Appreciate
have
you,
a good
bro.
one.
Thank you, man. You too, bro. Oh man, good show, y'all. Man, I definitely appreciate you for joining us here on the show. Appreciate it so much. Listen, make sure y'all go ahead and get the book There Was Violence. You can catch it on all platforms, Amazon, everywhere else. You can catch it on YouTube. You can catch us right there under the description. We got everything right there for you can find him on all his official links, social media, and everything else. We have it for you. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We got everything under our description, under the YouTube. So I appreciate everybody. I love y'all. Enjoy the rest of y'all day. Make sure you check out my man RW on Speak On It tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when he's speaking on it, y'all. He's definitely speaking on it. Make sure you check out my man DJ Wiz on Wiz.com, WHIZZ.com, giving you the Christian hip hop mix. Hey, those my bros. I'm trying to tell y'all, we got this game locked down. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And y'all make sure y'all stay nice and warm out there. To all my people up north. Whew. Please stay warm. Be careful out there. Everyone, love y'all. Y'all be good. And we will see y'all on Monday, where we actually gonna be posting a lot of stuff of what's going on Monday. We got a special one for y'all Monday. So make sure you check out all our social media platforms where we will be posting our special guests on Monday at 8:15. Love y'all. Be good. We out.